Meta Platforms CEO Mark Zuckerberg delivered great news for Nvidia stock investors. I'll go over the details of that announcement and why it's great news for Nvidia stock investors. Let's get into it.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/Parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now.
So, in a Facebook post on Friday, January 24th, Mark Zuckerberg said that Meta Platforms will pour $60 billion to $65 billion into its expansion plans. That's an enormous increase from the $38 to $40 billion the company said it planned to spend during its 2024 fiscal year. In other words, it's increasing its spending plans, its capital expenditure plans by 50%, by nearly 50%, by over 50% for 2025. In fact, if you look at the company's most recent investor quarterly press release, the company said that we anticipate full year 2024 capital expenditures will be between $38 and $40 billion. And they said that they continue to expect significant capital expenditures growth in 2025. So this was a few months ago, and they warned investors and they said, look, we're going to increase our spending significantly in 2025. They didn't put a precise number on it at that moment in time. What they did today is put a precise number on it. They said $60 to $65 billion. So at the midpoint, that's $62.5 billion, up from this $39 billion midpoint, a more than 50% increase. So why is that important for Nvidia, and why is that great news for Nvidia stock investors? Well, because most of this money, or a large percentage of this money that Meta Platforms will spend, will go towards data centers optimized for artificial intelligence. And these data centers optimized for artificial intelligence, Nvidia has an estimated market share of around 85 to 92%. So if Meta Platforms is spending $60 billion in a category where Nvidia has a market share of 85%, you can make the connection there and estimate that Nvidia's revenue will jump by a couple of $1 billion coming from Meta Platforms' increase in spending in this segment. Now, of course, I just discussed several estimates and assumptions and forecasts and brought it all together in one connection. And so you can understand this is a highly uncertain and hard to quantify number for Nvidia. But the fact remains, and Meta Platforms will be increasing their spending by a large amount, and a good percentage of it will go to Nvidia. In fact, in its latest quarterly update, Nvidia said that data center revenue was a record, and it was up 112% from a year ago. The strong growth was driven by demand for their Hopper computing platform for training and inferencing of large language models, recommendation engines, and generative AI applications. And that's precisely where Meta Platforms is making investments. Meta Platforms recommendation engines are a core skill for the company. It needs to be best in class in its recommendation engine. It needs to surface content that people spend time engaging with. If Meta Platforms on its Instagram and Facebook app shows you things that you're not interested in, you're going to close the app quickly. And if they continue doing that, you're not going to open the app as often, because you're going to remember that the last time you opened it, you didn't find anything interesting. So you're not going to open the app next time. So they need to be really good. They need to be world class in searching all of the content on the platform, showing you those content that you're most likely to engage with. That's not an easy thing to do. That takes a lot of computing power, and these recommendation engines benefit from Nvidia's computing platforms. Also, Meta is developing a large language models. Its Llama large language model is one of the best models in the market today. It wants to continue to develop that model, and this spending will help the company in that category. So Meta has a lot of use cases. Nvidia will help with that. And this is now the second big, large tech company that's announced a huge increase in spending. Earlier, Microsoft announced that it would be increasing its capital expenditures by over 60%. So Meta Platforms is increasing it by roughly 50%, Microsoft increasing it by roughly 60%, and Microsoft's budget is even larger than Meta. Meta is going from 40 to 60 billion. Microsoft is going from 50 billion to 80 billion in spending. And so those that were afraid that Nvidia's revenue growth was short-lived, that Nvidia was benefiting from a short-term fad in artificial intelligence, I've been talking how it's otherwise, how this is a persistent trend, how this is going to last several years. And the early indications are, at least for 2025, it's going to continue. So it's going to be another great year for Nvidia in terms of sales, because these large tech companies, which are Nvidia's biggest customers, are increasing their budgets. So where Nvidia stock investors should be concerned, if they hear news like the type of news I'm reporting here today, if we fast forward 1 year from now and I make a video saying Meta Platforms' budget for capital expenditure is slashed and it's down from 60 billion all the way down to 20 billion, that's when Nvidia stock investors can start to be concerned about the company's growth prospects. When companies like Meta and Microsoft and Amazon and Alphabet start slashing their capital expenditure budgets. But we haven't seen that. In fact, we're seeing the opposite right now. We're seeing all of those large cap tech companies, which are the biggest customers of Nvidia, they've all indicated that they're increasing their capital expenditure budgets by tens of billions of dollars. And so that's where Nvidia gets the bulk of its revenue. They've all indicated they're going to spend more. So you can reasonably make the conclusion that Nvidia's revenue will get a nice boost here in 2025. So that's great news for Nvidia stock investors, to be sure. This doesn't mean that it's guaranteed that the stock price is going to go up, but it just means that its opportunity for generating sales and profit and cash flow is at least one more year of booming results. And so that's great news for Nvidia. Hey everyone, I'm excited to announce that my book is finally available for sale. I've been working on it for more than a year now, so I'm really excited to finally share this with you now. It goes through my framework for evaluating stocks. Some of you often ask why I like this stock or why I like the other stock, and this framework provides you the things that I look at when I'm evaluating stocks. I've added the link in the description below.